One and all, and welcome to Cracking That Interview. So welcome back to our effective interview skills. We had our resume building on Monday, and now we are moving into how do we crack that interview. So I'm Kavita, and I'll be your trainer for today. So let's take a look at what's in store. Now, how many of you have seen this sign? Looks extremely interesting, right? For those of you who are trying to get a job. When you see this, vacancies, we are hiring, right? It's wonderful. But what do we need to do before we can sit in that chair out there? Let's have a look at the agenda. So how do you prepare for an interview? A couple of steps. Research the company on Google. I don't know how many of you do that. I've been taking interviews. I realize a lot of people don't do it. Second is analyzing the job description. What is the job description? What does the role contain? What is required for the job, right? It's good if you've been asking for the job description, or if the ads are up on the internet or in a newspaper, you would like to see what the job entails, right? Then there are some of you who may need to brush up the basics. Like, for example, if it's a data science job, right? What projects have you done? Can you brush up what you've learned 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago? Brush up the basics. Prepare for any tests. Sometimes, and I will talk about it as we move through, there will be a few tests that could be asked. It could be a written test, it could be a technical test. For example, a video editor's test, we give them a test so that they can create some kind of a video or graphics. For a content writer's interview, we share a topic for them to write content about, right? So be prepared for any tests. And then be prepared for answering eventual potential interview questions, and we will be looking at that using something called an elevator pitch and the STAR technique. Okay, I'll talk you through. Then last but not the least, learn how to be punctual. If you're not punctual everywhere, to school, to college, how do you expect to be punctual to an interview? But you need to be, right? It's a matter of your career. So please be punctual. Okay. Now, researching suitable jobs. What do you need to do? You need to research the company well in advance. Now, we had seen this earlier also when we spoke about resume building. You remember that, right? We looked at something called a SWOT analysis, isn't it? We looked at our strengths. We looked at our weaknesses. We looked at certain opportunities out there, right? Researching suitable jobs. And we also looked at threats. What threats did we look at? Do you remember? Well, we looked at a company, how it's performing, and we look at understanding that. Research the company well in advance. If you have not researched, you will never know what opportunities they have. You will not be able to read the job description. You will certainly not be aware of any threats that they have. Know what interests you and where your strengths lie, right? After SWOT analysis. So what are your strengths? It's very important to know your strengths. So find out your strengths first. Also find out your weakness, right? Because that is your first step. You find out your weakness so that you can work on them to change them to your strengths. Okay. Next, be an active listener. So sometimes when there are jobs out there in the market, it's out there in the market, like Google was hiring, so many companies were hiring in the past. You need to be aware of what are the jobs out there. What's the market saying? Be an active listener. Talk to people. Show empathy, right? And these skills will be useful for you when you're interviewing as well. Exhibit curiosity by asking questions about different companies and the job role you are interested in. So there are some people who I've interviewed who are not even clear of what they want to do. They might come for one round of interview for one role, then the next time round they might come for another role. Or they get interviewed for a certain role, they are not prepared of answering the question, why are you interested? So you need to display that curiosity. You have to ask questions about different companies and the job role you are interested in. What are you interested in? Be clear about what you want. Therefore, you need to do a SWOT analysis. That will help you. Okay, we're moving on to each one of them. So how do you research the company's website? Peruse the company website, right? Review corporate blogs. Do you know there is something called a corporate blog? Most companies on their website, they will have a corporate blog. Go into it, read about it. Also on social media, a lot of companies are on social media. So what does the social media say about the company? What is being shared? You can get a lot of insights about a company through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram, etc., TikTok, etc. Then you can identify the main competitors. Now, for example, I was working for HSBC Bank. Our competitors were NatWest, Barclays Bank. You need to find out who the competitors are, what do they do, and then use that information to help the company you're joining in, right? Oh, I understand the competitors do this, and this is what I will do differently in your company. Identify. It's useful information, so please do that research. Determine the company's main differentiators. So when you're looking at the website, you will be able to read about the company website I'm talking about. You'll be able to read about the company. You'll also be able to see their different departments, their different levels. What does each department do? Bigger company will have lots more support, HR, process, etc., content writers, etc. So what does each department do, right? What opportunities are there for you? So if you join in one team, 1 year down the line, can you think of moving into something else? Find out what the main differentiators are. How long can you be in that company? Can you grow in that company? This is all useful information, right? To find out that. Next bit is find out the corporate finance. What are the finances of the company? Have they been having profits in the past year? Right? What does the corporate blog say? Are people being paid their salaries? Review corporate finance. If you don't review it, you would never know the threats. For example, takeovers. Look for red flags on a review website. So if a company has been, now when I was with HSBC progresses, even now they progress by a takeover bid. They take over other companies, they take over processes, they take over people, right? They take over systems. Now, recently I've heard that HSBC in Canada is being taken over by Royal Bank of Canada. Tables have turned. Why? These can be red flags, right? So find out, review the website. Cool? Okay. If there are any questions, please let me know. Okay? Okay. I don't see any questions here, so please let me know. I'm going to move on. Okay. Now, let's take a deeper look at analyzing the job description. So what does it say? So understanding, so now we're talking job description, talking about the JD. How does it help you? By understanding the role or the position that you're applying for, right? What is the role? So what should you do? You should study the job description. Take it, print it off, or copy it onto a Word document and read through it. Where do my skills match, right? Next, that is one. Second step is connect with the company's current or past employees. Meet with people, find out about the company. So one is checking the website. Second is connect with people. Find out what the company does. Find out what the job entails. Find out the growth in the company. Connect with people. Then, and we will look at it more in detail. Then rehearse explaining your resume. So you've got your resume. You have to practice speaking it, right? Identify and leverage your selling points. So when you do your SWOT, and we will go through it step by step, when you do your SWOT analysis, you find out your strengths and your weakness. In this, you need to find out your selling points. And we will find out in elevator pitch, what's the most crucial point that you would want to sell about yourself? What is that one major point that will get you or guarantee you the job? Why should they select you over 100 others, right? Identify and leverage your selling points. How do you do that? Map out examples of your relevant skills and experience, right? So this is my strength, these are my weakness. These are my skills and the strengths. These are the weaknesses which I can improve on by attending training, etc., etc. Map out examples. So I've had experience in this area and therefore I say it's my strength. Guys, please remember, do not quote something is your strength if you've not had experience in it. Now, I do understand there are a lot of you who are freshers and therefore you don't have experience. But again, I'm repeating, you will get experience through project work. You will get experience through organizing a game in your college, through the projects that you do in your college, right? Quote those experiences. Talk about your skills from those experiences, right? But when I use the word relevant, what do I mean by that? This word, relevant. So with relevant, what I mean, what is relevant to the role that you're applying for, the job description, right? The role, position applied for, the job description that you're searching. So your skills should match with that, right? That's the meaning of relevant. And then try and address these three questions. Now you have to use these questions, ask yourself these questions, and get the answers of these three questions. What do you bring to the table? So at the interview, what do you bring to the table? What distinguishes you from the 100 others, right? Third question, what makes you the best candidate? Sit with these three questions and get answers to these questions. What are all your skills and your experience that you bring to the table? Why should I choose you? What distinguishes you from the others? What have you done as compared to the 10 others from your college? Right? And then what makes you the best candidate? So what's your unique selling point? Remember, best candidate for the job. Write down these questions. Right? Okay. So we're moving in depth into analyzing the job description. Now, when you've taken the job description from the website or from the HR person who's called you or from LinkedIn, now you have to prepare and practice your answers to each one of those job descriptions, right? Write down your skills matching that job description. So relevant, right? Write down examples for each of those skills. Remember that those should be your strengths, right? And then prepare and practice your answers so that you have not memorized it. It should come naturally to you. Okay. Study the important or common interview questions. There are a set of questions. There are lots of questions which are out there on the net. These are the set of questions that will be asked for a data science job. These are the set of questions that will be asked for an HR job. These are the set of questions that will be asked for content writer job, for example, right? Civil engineer, lean management. What are the skills required? You'll have a set of questions available on the internet. So study that up, prepare your answers. Jot down relevant points against each response so that it is handy. Now, you've got the job description. You've got your resume. Match your skill to the job description. Write down examples for each one of them. Okay? And then practice answering those interview questions. Now, what you should do is when you've practiced, it should come naturally to you. So what you can do is you can just write down keywords on your resume. So for this skill, this matches the job description. This is my experience, just one word, one or two words. So In the interview, you can look at it, then you can answer on your own so that it's handy, right? Practice saying your answers using these points. You have to practice them at home, guys. People don't practice for the interview. I don't know why. It's simple. Just prepare and practice. That is the key, right? Now, rehearse explaining your resume. You have to review your resume and cover letter. How many of you have got cover letters? A cover letter just gives a gist of your main points, which are relevant to the job. A very brief set of points relevant to the job, and then with your address signed off. So explaining why you've applied for the role, why you're the best fit for the job. That's about it. That's what a cover letter is. So review it and make sure that you know what goes into your resume. I've had some people who I have interviewed who tell me that, oh no, this is not the current, this is not my current resume. I couldn't change my resume. I've got more skills than what's in my resume. And I explained it to you in resume building. Please create your resumes on Word and keep updating that Word as and when you get more skills, and then converting it into PDF. PDF form is what you need to send to companies. And remember, it needs to be one page. So you need to be aware of what's in your resume. Don't just submit any resume. And practice before that interview. Okay, now how do we brush up the basics? Yeah? What basics are we talking about? This is readying yourself for the job. Now, job description, how will you know what basics? Job description comes, please, that's why you need the job description. Get the job description and see what is required for that job, right? But trying to prepare for every single aspect, if it's a technical skill, everything they require from Python to SQL, etc., etc. Now, you have some amounts of Python, you have some amounts of SQL. Can you learn the whole thing before the interview? It might be tough. So every single aspect you cannot prepare. But plan yourself, pace yourself, and plan accordingly. Pick the certain basics and get prepared to answer questions. You will have a technical round. So how do you prepare for that? Brush up those skills. Focus on both the technical and the practical aspects for the tests. That's the practical round. Technical round could be questions asked. How do you do this? How do you use the skill? Now, guys, one thing is, yes, you're fresh from college, right? I understand these are the skills that you've got. Some people just put very minimal details on their resume, which is fine. But how have you used that skill in college? What project have you done? Have you organized some game? Make a note of that. Remember, every interviewer is looking to see how you can exhibit that skill. You come and tell me, I'm good in Python and Tableau, for example. How do I know that? I can know one by giving you a test, but I would also like to see you demonstrate that, right? So where have you used that skill? Quote that in your resume. Remember that practical skill is very important. If you've not had it, then brush up your basics. Go and get that. Do a project, right? Focus both on the technical and the practical aspects. Okay, honing your skills. Now, sharpening your basics and your initial skills is significant. Now, if you have done, say, your graduation 10 years ago, like, for example, I did mathematics in my graduation. I keep brushing up on my maths, but if I had to remember something I did in physics, maybe in school, that's years ago, and I want to study now physics, or I want to have a job as in physics, right? In a lab, for example, or in a college, for example. How do I brush that up? Firstly, it's available on the net, or I could also go to a class. But lastly, it will depend upon when your interview is scheduled. How much time do you have? So sharpening your basics and initial skills is extremely significant. So there can be concepts of data, data mining, data visualization, mathematical terms. brush them up. Brush what up? It's all based on the job description, right? All based on that round that you've had with the HR. Brilliant. Now let's take a look at those rounds of interviews, okay? Initial interview. It could be on a phone, right? Someone calls you. Who calls you? It could be a first round of screening by an HR person or a recruiter, right? Either someone who works remotely or even someone in the same country, same place. They'll call you up just to screen you. It could be informational. That person gives you information about the company, tells you about the role, say, well, or it could be something like, oh, I'm looking out for a job. Would you be interested? This is a sales role in this company, in this place, and this is what it requires, information. You could also have a face-to-face meeting, right? Exploratory is someone looking to hire. They give you information and they look to see if you're willing to join them. You could also be having a face-to-face interview with professionals who are looking for what? To gain an insight into your career path. A lot of interviewers, remember, are looking to see if someone can stay in their company for some time, for a period of time, year, 2 years, maybe more. Not someone who has jumped jobs every 2 months, right? So please be careful with that. So be prepared. How can you be careful? By being prepared and doing your research. Be prepared with your resume, cover letter, and do your research about the company. Cool. Final interview. So sometimes companies can have several rounds. Initial round, screening, a face-to-face round, and a final interview. Final interview could be on a video. So it could happen if the employer is not in the same place or working remotely. You could also have something called a group interview, asked to come to the office, face-to-face meeting, or come to the office and have a group interview. So group interview could be several job seekers. I don't know if you've faced it or you've heard some of your friends, but interviewers can use this. Call a group of people and see how they perform. It will depend, of course, upon the kind of role that you're hiring for, right? To see how people react in a stressful situation. Together, one question asked to see how each one of them reacts. Sometimes you can have a panel interview. What's a panel interview? You one person, and there could be 3 people sitting in front of you, 4 people sitting in front of you. That's a panel discussion. So group setting, several interviewers, right? And what should you do? You have to maintain eye contact with all of them. 4 people, just don't look down at your notes or at your toes. Look up, meet them in the eye. When one person asks the question, look at them. Say, thank you for the question, answer it. Some second person comes with the question, look at them and then answer them. Right? What happens if a third person asks the question while you're answering them? Say, excuse me, let me first answer this question. And then go back to them. And if you get confused, there's no harm in writing down the question. Let me just make a note of the question. So have your paper and have a pen there. Then look up, maintain eye contact, and answer all of them. Cool. Now, most likely questions asked. These are general questions which can be asked. Tell me about yourself. I love some of these questions. Tell me about yourself. Tell me your biggest strength. If I'm hiring for a leadership position, what makes a good leader? And general HR recruiters ask, what salary do you expect? Right? Some people, big companies would like to see people staying longer. So they say, ask you this question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Please don't say, I would like to see myself in a different company, right? That's not going to get you the job. So that's why when you do your research, that's important. Get to know the company, get to know their laterals, their parallels, their different departments. See your growth in that company. Plan for 2 to 5 years. Okay. How do your colleagues describe you? What has been your greatest achievement in your life? Some people also ask for your biggest weakness. So when you do your SWOT, you should have all of these in handy, right? Okay, let's take a look at the elevator pitch. Now, this is very important because I see a lot of candidates who don't impress when they've opened their mouth. So this will help you open your speech to that interviewer recruiter. So what is an elevator pitch? Okay, it's also called an elevator speech. You can see there's some people here, down here, they're getting into a lift, right? Now, how long does it take from the ground floor, say, to go up to the 5th floor? Maybe about 30 seconds to a minute, right? So, and that's what an elevator pitch is, right? Is how you present yourself. It's a brief and concise speech, 30 seconds to 1 minute. It tells us who you are, what you do, and what you want to achieve. So if you're talking to a head of another company, or a recruiter from another company, tell them who you are, what do you do, and what do you want to achieve. Hi, I'm Kavita Rao. I work as a head of HR. I would love to hire the right candidates for the job. Yeah, what I want to achieve. Correct? Now, the elevator pitch is named as such since it is short and compelling enough to introduce yourself in an elevator. It's not too long. It grabs the attention of the recruiter, of the other person. Now, elevator pitch is a good way to share your credentials and expertise quickly with someone who doesn't know you. You can use this anywhere. If you've practiced your elevator pitch, who are you? What do you do? What do you want to achieve? You can use it anywhere. Anyone who asks you, hi, I'm Kavita. Can I know your name? And what do you do? Use your elevator pitch. Okay, practice it, guys. It'll help you communicate. So these are the steps for the elevator pitch. Know what you want to achieve. Firstly, identify and set your goal. What do I want to achieve in life? Example, looking for a job. And do you want to introduce yourself to the hiring manager, right? That's your objective. Then say something about what you do. Hi, I'm working in this company as a sales executive. Describe your organization. This company is blah, blah, blah. These are its products. These are its services. Explain your expertise and your skill sets. I work there as the head of learning and skill sets, right? I'm a graduate in, I'm a postgraduate in arts, English language, for example. Then you need to know your unique selling proposition. And this is the word that I had brought up earlier also, right? What is unique about you? What can you contribute to the company? What problems can you solve, right? What's unique about you? Then all of this, what is your goal if you're looking for a job? What do you talk about your company? How do you explain your expertise? Then talk about what is unique about you. What can you contribute to the company? And then put it all together. That becomes your elevator pitch. Ensure it's short, it's straightforward and compelling. Not longer than 30 seconds. How do you know it's 30 seconds? You need to practice it. After you write it down, say it out aloud. Practice delivering your pitch. Because it should not sound like you're reading, and it should not sound like a hard sell. This is a unique selling proposition, right? It's a sale. You're trying to sell your skills, but it should not sound like a hard sell. So very casually, you should be able to slip it in. Therefore, you need to practice it 100 times. Practice, guys, in front of the mirror. Practice in front of your friend. Record yourself talking about your goal, your organization, your expertise, and what is unique about you. Okay, let's look at STAR quickly. So STAR helps you answer questions. So you have to introduce the situation, talk about what you need to be done, what's the task, what action did you perform, and what was the result. Simple. That's how you answer your questions. So for example, can you give me an example how you dealt with conflict? Oh, this situation. So what's the situation? I've had two partners of mine. They were in a conflict with each other and they were arguing with each other situation. So I was asked by my manager to intervene and stop that conflict task. Then action, what did you do? So I went and spoke to them individually. I asked them what their problems were. I brought them together in a room and I asked them to talk about their problems in front of me. And then I suggested some actions. As a result, they were peaceful in the end. Each one went away happy, right? So this is the order you need to answer, and this is how you need to answer questions. So take down these questions and practice STAR. What's the situation? Describe a stressful situation and how you handled it. What's the situation? Maybe COVID. What's the task? What did you do when you lost your job, for example? What was the action? What was the task that you were asked to do, and what was the action that you performed? And what was the result? Guys, when you use STAR, when you give examples, that's why this will help you give examples. When you start giving examples, only give the examples that have a positive result, right? Or if it's a negative result, talk about what is your learning from that negative result. And the next question is, give me an example of when you have shown initiative. Make a note of these questions. Okay. So these are the points you need to remember. SWOT, your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Practice your elevator pitch, and then prepare your answers using STAR. Some more questions. Can you tell me about a mistake you made and how you handled it? Tell me about a time you had to deal with an angry customer. When you handled huge pressure. So SWOT is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is how you can write it down. You can see that, right? Draw lines like this, write down all your strengths, write down all your weaknesses, what are the opportunities and what are the threats. Find out your unique selling point. Then practice your elevator pitch, right? What is the elevator pitch? Know what you want to achieve, say something about what you do, know your unique selling proposition and put it all together. Now I need an elevator pitch for a job. So I'll practice selling myself, my experiences, which company I've come from, and what do I want to achieve next, and what is unique about me, right? Practice my elevator pitch. Then, that is for my initial introduction. I can practice an elevator pitch if I'm going to sell a product, right? Could be for anything. If you want to introduce yourself to a CEO, practice your elevator pitch. And then in the interview, practice answering your questions using STAR. What's the situation? What was the task? What was needed to be done and why? What action did you take? And what was the result? Remember, only give a positive result. Cool? So that brings us to an end. What questions do we have? Any questions? No? Okay. Let me check if there are any questions anywhere. Yeah, I can't see any questions. Guys, if you do have any questions, you can get in touch with me. And with this, we say thank you for the session. Goodbye.